I want to go ahead and start the music. The music I'm playing is relevant. So this is going on both YouTube and Twitch. I will be live streaming the series itself. I will be then uploading the videos to YouTube. This way I can have kind of a series where everything's a lot more interactive. I can interact with both the YouTube base and my Twitch base, which are both at about 100 followers now, which I really do appreciate that. I haven't figured out what I want to do for a special with that, but I'll figure that out later. But for the time being, I'm going to be introducing a new series. And then, but it's not just any Pokemon, Christian. I'm not playing a regular game. I am going to be doing this. I have entered that. I'm going to be going over some rules and guidelines because what I'm going to do is a Divalocke. So I have the paste bin in the description if you're on YouTube. If you're in chat right now, I just put the paste bin of it in my chat. So let's go over what on earth Divalocke is. So this is going to be a combination of a Pokemon ROM called Storm Silver, as well as combining it with Project Diva F2nd. You're probably wondering how the hell I'm going to be integrating two completely different games. And yeah, I was wondering the same thing. But a couple days ago, I discovered a series that did the kind of same thing, except with Love Live School Idol Festival, which is a iOS/Android rhythm game. So, anyway, I'm going to just go ahead and start going over the rules. I'm actually going to capture a screen so you guys can see kind of what I'm working with here. Of course, I do have the I will have it so you can read it yourself in case the resolution is not good enough. Anyway, so just a forward. This was inspired by a channel called Aaron Cerise. The link is right here, and if you want to go ahead and click on that, I'm also going to throw an annotation as well, just to plug our channel, since this is kind of why it's inspired. I'm using Project Diva F and F2nd instead of Sif because I have easy access to switching between Diva and the ROM I'm going to be using, which I'm using Desmume, and again I'm playing the Storm Silver mod ROM hack, which is based off of Soul Silver. It just makes everything available. There's more details about that a little bit further down. Anyway, so yeah, Divalocke is basically going to be just a Project Diva spin on a Nuzlocke challenge, so perma quote-unquote death, although my Pokemon aren't actually dying, they're just being retired. Anyway, so before the challenge begins, choose which Hatsune Miku Project Diva series game you are playing, as well as which difficulty you want the Project Diva portions of the challenge to be. Preferably don't play easy mode. By the way, I'm just describing the general rules just in case you also want to try doing this as well. And then you can add any other restrictions and whatnot and other additional challenges in case the game's too easy for you. Like if your hit's okay and you can just perfect everything forever, then maybe add some challenges. So like challenge items, playing without the button sounds or weird button sounds, something like that. Anyway, rule number 1, pretty standard. If a Pokemon faints, it's dead, basically. I call it retired. This means that you need to either release or permanently box your Pokemon. So, I'm just calling it something different just because death is not fitting. Anyway, rule 2. How do words, anyway. You may only capture the first Pokemon you encounter in an area. This is a standard Nuzlocke rule. However, additive to that rule, the gender distribution of your full party must be 4 females and 2 males. As I switch over to here's the male distribution, and this is why it is 4 females and 2 males. This way you can have, or this way, there are basically a representative of the Vocaloids themselves from the Project Diva series. So, this is what your distribution has to be. Yeah. So, switching over back to the document here. Gender clause, which means that any genderless Pokemon that appear in the wild do not count as your encounter. You are not allowed to catch these Pokemon. Pokemon that have a gender, but not the gender you need to keep the party gender distribution correct do not count as your encounter either. You have 5 chances in each area, separate from the duplication clause, to encounter an appropriately gendered Pokemon. If you have not found an appropriate gendered Pokemon by your 5th wild, you forfeit your catch for the area. So, for example, if you have, let's say, 4 girls and you don't have any guys, if the first 5 Pokemon you come across are also girls, you are not allowed to catch them and you forfeit your catch for the area. So, you just have to keep a gender distribution of basically 1 boy for every 2 girls. Personally, I recommend if your starter is male that you soft reset for a female starter, this will make your gender distribution just a little bit easier since the Pokemon genders tend to lean towards males and whatnot. Don't worry, Mr. 64 Luigi, I am getting to that. I will be talking about the naming and all that fun stuff. Anyway. So, and then also, if you are playing this challenge on Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, the Dex and that Pokemon do not count as encounters because they are not considered random. You actually know what you're getting. So you have to ignore them and you have to actually just go look for a wild Pokemon that's completely random. Anyway, going back to something that's pretty well known within Nuzlocking is the Dupes clause. You do not and cannot catch any duplicate Pokemon or pre-evolutions of the said Pokemon. You have 5 chances in each area, separate from the gender clause, to encounter a non-duplicate. If you have not found a non-duplicate by your 5th encounter, you forfeit your catch for the area. So, you can get approximately 10 chances at catching a Pokemon in a given area, should you trigger both the uses of Dupes clause and gender clause. So, better hope that luck smiles on you. Anyway, 2C, Legendary Clause. Legendary Pokemon may be caught and used provided they are male or female and would legitimately be your first encounter for an area. Genderless legendaries are not allowed as per the gender clause, which means that the only actual eligible legendaries are Latias, Latios, Cresselia, Heatran, Landorus, Thundurus, and Tornadus. Latios is a female, Latios is male, Cresselia is female, Heatran is both male and female, Landorus, Thundurus, and Tornadus are all male. If you are forced to catch or use any legendaries for plot reasons, they must be released or permanent boxed as soon as possible. This is mostly poking at X and Y, where you are physically required to use either Xerneas or Yveltal in order to progress in the plot. So you can use them just fine, but you have to put them away as soon as you physically possibly can. Anyway, 2D, the Fill Clause. After your party is full, extra Pokemon are put on a waiting list. When a spot on your team opens up, fill it with the oldest catch on your list of the appropriate gender. So say you have a full party, 2 boys, 4 girls, 2 boys, 4 girls, okay, sorry. And say one of your boys dies. Then what you do, you go to your box and you have to grab the oldest boy that you have caught, and then you have to put it in your party. 2E, the Pattern Clause. This is optional, but I'm going to be playing with it. Pokemon caught that don't go immediately in your party, aka sent to the box, must follow the rules of gender catching distribution. Once 6 Pokemon are caught with the proper distribution, 2 males and 4 females, you may then start a new set of 6 Pokemon. This ensures that the gender distribution of what Pokemon you're catching is the same as your party, so that way you're not, like, over-catching, like, whatever. Excuse me. If you're playing without the Pattern Clause, basically you can just, after you fill up your party, you can catch whatever the hell you want. Everything's basically available to you, but I'm going to personally be playing with the Pattern Clause just to add more restrictions and make it more difficult. And 2F, the Shiny Clause. If you encounter a shiny Pokemon, it may be caught and added to your team or your waiting list immediately. Bypassing the Nuzlocke rules, the Audition Rule, Gender Clause, Dupes Clause, Legendary Clause, Fill Clause, and Pattern Clause, and the Santa Clause. This is the only means by which you can get a genderless Pokemon on your team, or have a gender distribution be completely off for any reason. This is because shinies are just really, really special, and we just let them kind of have their way. Anyway, number 3. Say my name. All Pokemon must have nicknames, preferably names that are fittingly kind of music, idol-esque, but whatever nicknames you prefer, fine. I'm going to have a list of names available to me that I'm going to just have written down just for easy access. But what I actually want is for you guys to help me name them. So for those on YouTube, if you have any suggestions for names of Pokemon, you can kind of put specifics. So like, oh, the first fish Pokemon you catch should be called Bubbles or something like that. So just go ahead and put that in the chat, and I will be using those names if they fit, and if they don't, I'll be using my own names. By the same merit, I am live streaming this entire thing. It's going to be Fridays at 10 p.m., so that's going to fill up my Friday block. But I'm going to be basically having chat open, and then if chat wants me to name something a certain way, then I'll definitely consider it in the list of options of naming Pokemon. So, if you're here in Twitch and you're here on YouTube, you're going to get maximum exposure, and this will be a playthrough that you guys can really actually affect. Anyway, number 4, dance and sing like you want to win. You do not necessarily get to keep every Pokemon you get. After completing any catch or receiving any eligible gift Pokemon other than your starter, your new Pokemon must perform an audition. What this means is that I'm actually going to be switching my stream over from Pokemon over to Project Diva F2nd. And I'm going to play a song. So the audition process goes as follows. First, I'm going to be pausing my Pokemon game and going to the Project Diva game that I specified, which is going to be Project Diva F2nd. So you're going to go into rhythm game mode. You can do edit mode if you're like insane or just really fucking good at the game. But anyway, that's beside the point. And then you're going to select your difficulty level. The difficulty level of the song is determined by the type of ball your Pokemon was caught in. So if you caught your Pokemon in a Pokeball, then you're going to play a normal song. If it's a Great Ball, you're playing on hard. If you catch anything with an Ultra or Master Ball, you're playing on extreme. And if you're using any specialty balls, so like Dusk Balls or Net Balls or things like that, you're going to also be playing a hard song. Those are going to be classified as Great Balls, even though they can sometimes be better depending on the situation. So after you have selected your difficulty, you're going to select random. You can pick a song if you want to, just don't spam the ones you know. I'm personally just going to do random, just that way I'm not like skewed towards my own like kind of preferences and songs I can easily get perfects on. Anyway, so if you fail the song, the audition's over and you must release or perma box the auditioning Pokemon as soon as possible. So basically, if you done goof, you don't get your Pokemon. If you clear the song, then you proceed to the next step. At the end of the song, determine the judge's score. How well your Pokemon scored in the audition is determined by your grade in Diva. So, if you get a perfect, that means you get to automatically keep your catch. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. That Pokemon becomes part of your team or goes straight to your waiting room and you don't have to worry about it. If you get an excellent, that's a 75% rate. I'm going to be generating a number between 1 through 4. If it's a 1 through 3, I'm going to keep my catch. If it's a 4, I must release or permabox it. In the case, the judges think you did pretty good. You're pretty good. You definitely had a really good performance, and you've got some potential left in you. So the judges are feeling that like you're probably going to make it. Anyway, great. It's a 50% catch rate. You did okay. You have some potential, but you might not make the cut for the team. So I'll be doing the same thing, generating a number between 1 and 4. 1, 2, I keep. 3, 4, I release. And then a standard, 25. You did an okay performance. It was kind of mediocre. The odds of you actually joining the team are not very good, and that's just going to have to be how it is. If I generate a 1, then I keep it. Otherwise, 2 through 4, it's gone. And if you don't even pass the song, which is going without saying, but I included this clause anyway, so getting a so close rank or lousy in the Japanese version, 0%, you forfeit your catch, it's gone. So, as a note, Project Diva, for those of you who are actually going to try this, can be really cruel on getting perfects. In which case, if you really want to, you can move everything up a tier. So, like, Perfects and Excellence are 100%, catch rate, rates are 75%, goods are 50%, so on, or standards are 50%. However, I will be playing by Perfect as 100, Excellent as 75, so on and so forth, as I've described. Number 5, as long as you still have usable Pokemon in your PC or the daycare, the challenge is not over, even in the event of whiteout. Rebuild your team as the best you can according to the order of captures and continue the game until you are out of Pokemon. This one is just a pretty standard rule overall. If you still have Pokemon left, you can keep going. There are exceptions to the rule, hence 5A, Solitude's End Clause, because I named some of the clauses after songs in F2 specifically. The exceptions to the above rules are battles with the Elite Four and the Champion, or other climactic trainers such as Red and Heart Gold and Soul Silver, Gestus, and Black and White. If you white out during one of these battles, then you lose the challenge even if you still have extra Pokemon. This adds a definite risk factor in making sure that you are fully prepared going into a battle, because if your Pokemon die in a climactic trainer battle, then odds are whatever the evil plot is happening is going to succeed. So you're done. Your challenge is over. Anyway, number 6, which is a pretty important one, you ain't got the balls. The challenge rules do not affect until you receive your first Pokeballs. So if your Pokemon dies like as you're like heading like on the first route, but you don't have Pokeballs yet, and your Pokemon gets knocked out, you're still going. It's a good way to just make sure that you actually get a chance to start playing the game. Anyway, number 7. This is optional. This is for if you want to make the game a little bit easier. I am going to be playing by these sets of rules. So number 7, but I'm the main character. If you feel like there's no way in hell you will be successful, which I'm feeling like it's going to be basically impossible for me, especially if you're doing a tough ROM hack, which I am, then you may at any point use a lifeline should the conditions be applicable. This will help the longevity of a run as well as temper the difficulty a little. The lifelines are as follows. So, I could read them to you here, or I can switch to the screen. Anyway, the lifelines: play black. After the song you play in Diva ends, but before the RNG roll, you may use this lifeline to replay the song. You must take the second grade, however, even if it's worse. So, for example, let's say I'm playing a really hard song and I only get a standard on it. Well, that really sucks. I don't want a 1 in 4 chance. I want to actually catch this Pokemon really badly. So, I use my playback power-up, and then I can play the song again. And hey, I got it great. Okay, so I now have another additional 25% chance of getting it. So, this will help you try to make sure that your ranks kind of fill in a little bit. If you're just having a particular off song, because if you look at kind of my history with kind of things like Paradichlorobenzene or 2D Dream Fever, I'm very hot and cold with those songs. I can do really well and get excellence on them, or I can do really, really shitty and get standards. So it really varies, and that's why this power-up, or lifeline rather, is here. Anyway, next one, Heat Haze Days. If you know the song Heat Haze Days from Project Diva F2, then this will make complete sense to you. If one of your members is retired in battle, you may use this lifeline to bring them out of retirement, essentially reviving them from the dead if you were to put in Nuzlocke terms. This lifeline must be declared before the current battle resumes. For example, before you like switch Pokemon and continue the battle. Or if it was the last Pokemon, before your character even moves in the Pokemon Center, you must declare this lifeline. This Pokemon must remain retired for the duration of the battle it was retired in. So you can't use Revise or Max Revise to bring them in the battle and win it. You Pokemon must remain knocked out for the remainder of the battle and cannot be used. So this is basically a revival. This is to, I guess, kind of save time, more or less. Just because if one of your like main Pokemon die, you're gonna have to grind the living shit out of the next one that comes out. So this is to kind of help temper that particular instance a little bit. And the last one, Change Me, which is another song reference. Anyway, if you're trying to get a specific gender for a Pokemon for an in-game event, specifically an in-game event, not a wild encounter, such as receiving an Eevee from an NPC in most Pokemon games, you may declare this lifeline to save scum. So you can save before you get it and reset over and over and over again if the desired gender is not given. So, in order to get the gender you want, you must declare the desired gender before save scumming. Of course, this is overwritten by the shiny clause, but other than that, if you want, like, for example, a female Eevee, then you're allowed to save before you actually would receive the Eevee and keep resetting until you get that female Eevee, in which case you can then continue your adventure. This is the only time you can actually use this. You cannot use it for wild encounters or anything like that. Anyway, little amendments to the rule. 7A, quantity clause. You are only allowed to have one of each lifeline at any given time. So these icons that you guys see on the screen right now, these icons will be displayed somewhere on my screen, and if I have them, they will still be displayed. If I don't have them anymore, they will be removed from my screen so you guys know which power-ups I have. You can only have one at a time. And then 7B, the refresh clause, which is optional, but I am going to be using it. You may set intervals in which the lifelines may refill, but must be related to number of badges owned. The frequency of this clause must be declared before challenge starts. Refreshing lifelines must abide by the quantity clause, therefore you cannot have any like 2 of any lifeline. So, if you're going to use this clause, I recommend you do either 2 or 4 badges obtained. Every badge obtained is pushing the difficulty too far down in my opinion. But hey, it's your playthrough, not mine. For mine, I'm doing a 4 badge refresh. So every time I obtain 4 badges, I'm going to refresh. Because I am doing a Soul Silver, that means I'm going to get 4 refreshes. Anyway. And then 8, which is basically, this is basically the Idlelock rules with a few appends just to fit within my own rule scheme. Anyway, we are more than just divas, we are idols. The original Idlelock rules you can find actually here, which is linked via YouTube video as Cerise goes over it. Anyway, your Poke Divas must all fight in groups of 3. So going actually back over here, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off, turn these on. So this is the gender distribution for your units. Because your divas must fight in groups of 3, contain 2 females and a male. These are your units. Only 3 Diva units may exist at any given time. This is to mirror the 9-member structure of Love Live because I am basing this off of School Idol Festival and the Idlelock challenge, which is, again is linked in the YouTube thing up here. I say up here like you guys can see my screen, which you can't, but it's under number 8. And then this also mirrors the fact that there are only ever like 3 like controllable modules at most in the Diva games when you're playing songs. So yeah, this also makes your party size, your rotating party size manageable, but also restricts it. So for example, you're only allowed to have a total of 9 active Pokemon, the rest are in your waiting room, and you cannot use them until Pokemon actually die. So this is to kind of limit your options. This makes sure that you have to fight more carefully, and maybe luck can really fuck you over here. This is kind of why another reason why I have the power-ups or lifelines. Anyway, Pokemon are added to units as they are caught and auditioned. Your first 3 Pokemon form 1 unit, the next 3 form the second, and the 3 after form the third. When starting out, Pokemon that won't fit the gender requirements of a unit may be placed in the next valid unit instead. If there are no valid units available, then this Pokemon may not be used under any circumstances and should therefore be released or permaboxed. So for example, let's say I have 2 female, so let's say I have Miku and Rin here, and I catch Luca. But Luca can't go into my first unit here, I need a male for that, so she goes to my second unit instead, where she starts filling in the second unit. So that's kind of how that's going to work. Again, the catching and filling the units thing is only going to apply when you have empty units. Once you are full on units, then the pattern rule will apply. There's another amendment to that, but I'll go over that once I get there. 8C, this replaces the fill clause up in section 2. After all your units fill up, extra Pokemon are put on the waiting list. When a spot on your team opens up, fill it with the oldest catch on your list of the required gender. If the spot cannot be filled by the proper gender, then the spot on the unit will remain empty until an eligible Pokemon is captured and auditioned. So this is basically the same as the fill clause, it just makes sure that you're filling in your units first. Units will fill up with the oldest units being first. So same as kind of how they're filled in the first place. If this is all confusing, by the way, don't worry, it's going to be confusing for a while. This is a lot of words and it's not necessarily going to make sense until I actually start the playthrough itself. Anyway, 8D, this replaces the pattern clause. Pokemon caught that don't go immediately in your party must follow the rules of a new unit creation. Once 3 Pokemon are caught with the proper distribution, 1 male and 2 females, you may then start a new set of 3 Pokemon. So basically, instead of having a 2-4 distribution for 6, you're having a 2-1 for 3. This means that you can only catch in sets of 3, so there's a little bit less versatility when you're catching in terms of gender. So this will put even more restrictions on capturing. It's going to make it even harder. Anyway, 8E, all members of a unit must stay together at all times. You may switch units in and out of your party as often as you like, but if you want to deposit or withdraw one member of a unit, any other member of her unit must go with her or him. So for example, if I just have this first unit here, Miku, Rin, and Len, and I have Luca, Kaito, and Mako in the box, if I pull out Luca, I also need to grab Kaito and Mako. Otherwise, Luca needs to stay in the box, or I need to find some way to get all 3 of a unit into my party. This means that you're only going to be able to carry 2 out of your 3 units at once, at any given time. Unless some weird filling issues where you have like a 3-2-1 sort of setup, which is really going to be really hard to pull off, but it's not impossible. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and just switch over back to the document itself. On the subject of HM users, if any Pokemon in one of your units can learn a required HM move, you must teach it to that Pokemon first. If absolutely none of your unit members can learn the required HM, only then may you catch and make room for a separate HM user. Said HM user is not allowed to participate in battles or anything aside from using their own HM move in the overworld. Mr. 64 Luigi, the Santa Claus was a joke, because there was a bunch of clauses and then never mind. It's a joke. Don't look into it. Anyway, if one of your Pokemon gets, or if your HM slave, so to say, gets roared or whirlwind into battle, or must absolutely enter battle for some reason, say you're like out of Pokemon, it's your last one, spam status moves or ineffective items until they faint. They're not allowed to do anything. They just aren't. So yeah, that's just kind of on HM restrictions, just in case you're having problems there. Anyway, 8F, Pokemon may only battle with the members of their assigned unit. This means if you're in a battle and you want to switch to another Pokemon, you may not switch out to anyone who is not in that Pokemon's active unit. So, going back to the screen with our units here. Say I send out Miku first. I'm only allowed to switch in battle with Rin or Len. I cannot use Luca, Kaito, or Mako until my entire unit is knocked out. This will be mentioned later. If you are roared or whirlwinded, however, into a Pokemon from a different unit, continue the battle as normal using the new unit as your active unit. So let's say Rin is fighting like a Arcanine, and Arcanine roars Rin, and Mako pops out. I'm now going to fight with Mako's unit and use that as my active unit. So that's kind of how you have to account for when you're like being forced. For double battles, if one of your 2 active Pokemon faints and there's a third member of your unit still alive, you must switch to that third member and to replace the fallen Pokemon. If only one of your 2 active Pokemon faints and there are no members of your unit left to switch out, you may switch in a member from another unit for the duration of this battle only. And you are not allowed to switch until another one of your Pokemon faints. So, if you're doing double battles, you should really do a unit with 2 or more members, preferably 3, so that way this doesn't really get too complicated. Triple battles and rotation battles are kind of the same way. I'm not actually going to be doing, or those are not actually available battle types in the ROM hack I'm playing, but in case it's applicable to you, there are rules on triple and rotation battles. Basically, you have to fight with your unit and stuff. That's pretty much all the basics to it. You can read those specifics again in the paste bin, which I have left below the YouTube video or in the chat. Anyway, 8G. If a Pokemon faints in battle, one of her unit partners must switch in and either win the battle or faint as well. If you run out of Pokemon in a given unit, only then may you switch to the Pokemon in another unit. So, as I was saying, you have to keep going with the unit until it's gone. Anyway, 8G. Each unit must have a unique group name. So, for example, if we're using Love Live, there are 3 subunits, BB, Lilywhite, and Printemps, which is how you actually pronounce that. Or I guess an example that was left here is Smash Mouth. Basically, you have to name each group of 3. So, I guess for example, oh, that's not even the right screen. Here's the right screen. So, for example, this unit of 3, Miku, Rin, and Len, I could call them, Idle Knife or something like that, and that's their group, and that can be their group name. And then as long as there's one surviving member of unit, you may continue to use the same group name that you made for the group originally and cycle new members through it. However, as soon as a unit is gone, all 3 members are gone out of it, or it's just completely empty, then that unit disappears. The unit name's gone, your units are gone, and you need to make a new unit name for your next set of 3. Also, as one more thing, your units cannot fill in for other members. So, for example, let's say Len dies, or is retired, rather. I cannot use Luca, Kaito, or Mako because they are already part of a unit, and I cannot have them fill. I must fill my unit with Pokemon in my waiting room, if I have them, or any other eligible Pokemon. So, that's pretty much it, I think. And then just, I guess, as an afterword, so, just a little TLDR of this. I'm doing a Nuzlocke challenge, which includes Diva F2nd to make sure I don't get to keep every Pokemon. For the challenge that I will be completing, I will be using all the rules that I have just said, including the optional ones, every single one of them. I'm playing Pokemon Storm Silver by Drayano, which is a ROM hack that makes Pokemon Soul Silver more difficult, but also allows for all 493 Pokemon to be catchable in some way, shape, or form. There are details of the changes that were actually made to Soul Silver. There's a link in number 9, the afterword. I will also leave a link in the description, just so you guys can click on that and take a look at what Storm Silver even is. For rule specifics, I'm going to be using the audition capture rates as I listed them, so 100% is perfect, 75% is excellent, so on and so forth. And I am going to be using the refresh clause after every 4 gym badges. Yeah. And then, again, I am using Section 8, which is all the Love Life stuff, with slight modifications to fit Diva better. Pokegear, I'm not sure what you mean by using Pokegear. If you're talking about using Pokegear to, like, find encounters, I think that... No, it's not random. It's not random, so no, you can't use your Pokegear for that sort of stuff. I guess one thing to mention about Storm Silver, I know that it actually helps out your early game, so you immediately get running shoes, you immediately get the bike, you immediately get the old rod, like, right off the bat, your mom gives it to you. Pokewalker, no, this is a ROM hack, therefore I'm playing it on Desmume, and I don't think I can hook up to my computer to a Pokewalker. So no, I'm not using a Pokewalker, and even then, it's kind of random, but not exactly, but... honestly, I'm not going to use it because I think it would just really make the rules even more complicated than they already are, and they're really fucking complicated. Anyway, once again, I will be streaming this on Twitch, starting at 10 PM on Fridays. If I start streaming before then, I will not start until 10 PM, at the earliest. Anyway, and then as a reminder, I am taking name suggestions. So, if you have name suggestions, which you can post in the YouTube version of this video, which I am posting, go ahead and put them in the description. Also, in the description, I am going to be putting a straw poll, but you guys are going to choose my starter. What starter am I going to play with? Am I going to play with Chikorita, am I going to play with Cyndaquil, or am I going to play with Totodile? These are the starters for this game, same as Soul Silver. So, I'm going to put up a straw poll at some point in the YouTube description, and actually I'm going to put it up like right after I finish like talking about this, so that way you guys can all vote for which starter I'm going to be using for this Nuzlocke challenge. And again, I am going to soft reset the game until I get a female starter, just because it'll make my life a little bit easier, since again, females are harder to find than males in the world of Pokemon for some reason. Anyway, guys, that's it. So again, I'm uploading it to YouTube as it comes. But I'm live streaming it every Friday at 10 PM. So I hope you guys tune in, and I I'm really looking forward to this, and I hope you guys have a lot of name suggestions for me, because I only have so many I can work from. And I think that's going to be it for that. So for those of you on YouTube, this has been Mr. Harry's Missing, signing off.